Picture this. I'm standing at the edge of my kitchen counter, the faint hum of a distant lawnmower seeping through the cracked window, and I'm tracing the rim of a chipped coffee mug with my thumb, lost in a thought I can't quite pin down. There's something about the way the late afternoon light spills across the linoleum floor that feels heavier today, like it's carrying a secret I haven't been let in on yet. My name's Amelia, I'm 38, and I've spent the last 12 years building a life with my husband Ethan in a quiet suburban pocket just outside Denver, Colorado. Our home is a modest 2-story with ivy creeping up the brick, nestled in a neighborhood where the most exciting event is usually the annual block party. I'm a freelance graphic designer, piecing together logos and layouts from the cluttered desk in our spare room, while Ethan spends his days as a psychology professor at the local university, unraveling the mysteries of the human mind. Our life, on the surface, is as predictable as the seasons. We hike the Rockies on weekends, our boots crunching against the gravel trails as we chase the kind of silence only the mountains can offer. At night, we share cozy dinners, a bottle of red wine between us, the old wooden dining table creaking under the weight of our plates. Our conversations often drift into the abstract, Ethan's doing mostly. He's got this way of turning a simple chat about the day into a deep dive on human nature. With his sharp green eyes locked on mine, he'll stroke his chin, a habit when he's lost in thought, and throw out questions that linger long after the dishes are cleared. What if we push the boundaries of what we think we're capable of? He'll muse. Or, what if we explored the edges of trust to see how far it stretches? I usually just laugh, sipping my wine, brushing it off as his academic brain's spinning its wheels. After all, I'm the practical one. Grounded, a bit skeptical of anything that strays too far from the norm. His theories are fascinating, sure, but they've always felt like thought experiments, nothing more. Ethan himself is a puzzle I've spent over a decade trying to solve. There's an intensity to him, a curiosity that burns beneath the surface. I see it in the way he studies people, me included, like he's peeling back layers to understand what drives us. It's part of what drew me to him all those years ago. Those late-night talks where he'd challenge everything I thought I knew about myself. Even now, there are moments when we're alone, the world outside fading away, and he'll pull me close. His voice a low murmur against my ear, asking questions that make my pulse quicken. Not just about ideas, but about us. About desires we've never voiced, boundaries we've never crossed. I'll tease him, deflect with a playful nudge, but his words always linger, stirring something I can't quite name. Later that evening, after the weight of the afternoon light had faded into dusk, I found myself sinking into the familiar grooves of our worn leather couch. The fire crackled softly in the hearth, casting flickering shadows across the room, while I cradled a warm mug of chamomile tea, the steam curling up in delicate wisps. Ethan sat beside me, his long fingers wrapped around a glass of whiskey, swirling the amber liquid with a slow, deliberate rhythm. His cryptic musings from earlier still hung in the air, those probing questions about boundaries and trust that had stirred something restless in me. I couldn't let it go. I turned to him, my voice steady but laced with curiosity, and pressed for more. What did you mean earlier, Ethan? About pushing limits? Exploring edges? What's really on your mind? He took a sip of his drink, his sharp green eyes meeting mine over the rim of the glass, and a faint, knowing smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. I've planned something for us, Amelia, he said, his tone low and measured, like he was choosing each word with care. A getaway, just one night. A chance to step outside ourselves. You'll see. All I'm asking is for you to trust me. His words were vague, almost too vague, but there was a weight to them, a promise of something I couldn't quite grasp. I tilted my head, searching his face for a clue, but he just held my gaze, unreadable as ever. My heart did a little flip, a mix of emotions swirling inside me like the whiskey in his glass. There was curiosity, of course. Ethan's surprises were rare, and the idea of a night away sparked a flicker of excitement, a break from the predictable rhythm of our days. But there was unease, too, a quiet nagging at the back of my mind. What did he mean by stepping outside ourselves? Was this another of his thought experiments turned real? Or something deeper, something I wasn't ready for? I wanted to trust him. After 12 years I should. But that doubt clung to me, stubborn and cold. I took a sip of my tea, the warmth doing little to settle the flutter in my chest, and nodded slowly. Okay, I'm in. But you've got to give me something more than riddles. He chuckled softly, a sound that sent a shiver down my spine, and reached into his pocket. He pulled out a small folded piece of paper, a handwritten note scrawled in his precise, slanted script. He handed it to me, his fingers brushing mine for just a moment longer than necessary. I unfolded it and read the words, an address, somewhere in the mountains, and a time. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m. I looked up at him, eyebrows raised, but he just leaned back against the couch, that same enigmatic smile playing on his lips. Pack light, was all he said. You won't need much. The next day passed in a blur of anticipation and nerves, the hours slipping by as I packed a small overnight bag, my mind racing with questions about what Ethan had planned. By the time we arrived at the secluded mountain retreat, the sun had dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in deep shades of indigo. The air was crisp, biting at my skin as I stepped out of the car, my boots crunching on the gravel path. The place was an old, rustic lodge, tucked away in a clearing surrounded by towering pines, their branches heavy with the scent of resin. A faint glow spilled from the windows, and the distant sound of a stream trickled through the stillness. Ethan led the way, his stride confident, while I trailed behind, clutching my coat against the chill, my breath fogging in the cold night air. We didn't linger in the lodge itself. Instead, Ethan guided me through a narrow hallway, past flickering sconces on the walls, until we reached a heavy wooden door at the far end. He pushed it open, and a wave of humid heat washed over me, carrying with it the sharp tang of eucalyptus and the soothing undertone of rosemary. I stepped inside, my eyes adjusting to the dim, hazy light of a steam bath, an ancient cavern of sorts carved into the heart of the mountain. The walls were rough stone, slick with condensation that glistened like liquid glass, reflecting the flickering torchlight mounted in iron brackets. Low benches, hewn directly from the rock, lined the edges of the space, their surfaces worn smooth by time. At the center, a pool of steaming water shimmered, its surface rippling gently, sending tendrils of vapor curling into the air. The earthy musk of wet stone mingled with the herbal scents, creating an atmosphere that was both grounding and disorienting, wrapping around me like a heavy cloak. I stood near the entrance, still gripping my coat, the heat already prickling at my skin, when I realized we weren't alone. My gaze darted through the haze, and my chest tightened as I spotted them. 5 men, their forms half hidden in the shadows of the steam. Some sat on the benches, others stood near the pool, their silhouettes barely discernible through the mist. They wore simple linen robes, the fabric clinging to their frames from the damp air. And though their faces were obscured at first, I could feel their eyes on me, piercing through the fog with an intensity that made my stomach twist into knots. As my vision cleared, I took in their details, each one more unsettling than the last. One had a jagged scar slicing across his cheek, the pale line stark against his weathered skin, catching the torchlight like a warning. Another's hands were rough and calloused, the knuckles gnarled like he'd spent a lifetime working with stone or steel. A third stood taller than the rest, his posture rigid, his gaze unblinking, while the others carried an air of quiet menace, their expressions unreadable behind the veil of steam. Strangers, all of them, yet their presence felt deliberate, calculated, as if they'd been waiting for me. My heart thudded against my ribs, a frantic rhythm that echoed in my ears over the soft drip of water from the walls. I turned to Ethan, seeking some kind of anchor, some explanation for this surreal scene, but he had already moved away, positioning himself in a corner of the room. I caught his reflection in a cracked, steamy mirror mounted on the stone wall, the glass distorting his features just enough to make him look like a stranger himself. He held a glass of red wine, the liquid catching the light as he tilted it slightly, his expression a mask of calm I couldn't decipher. Our eyes met in the mirror, and a chill ran down my spine as he gave a slow, deliberate nod. A silent signal that felt like a key turning in a lock I hadn't even known was there. Before I could speak, before I could demand answers, one of the men, the one with the scarred cheek, approached me. His footsteps were eerily silent on the wet stone, the steam parting around him like a curtain as he closed the distance. My breath caught in my throat as he reached out, his calloused fingers brushing lightly against my wrist. I'm still standing near the entrance of this cavernous steam bath, the humid air clinging to me like a second skin, wrapping me in a shroud of mist that blurs the edges of everything. My pulse is hammering in my ears, a relentless drumbeat that drowns out the soft drip of condensation from the stone walls. The heat is almost suffocating, making my skin prickle with sweat, tiny beads rolling down my neck as I try to steady my breathing. The lingering sensation of the stranger's touch, those rough, calloused fingers brushing my wrist, still burns there, a phantom weight that I can't shake off. It's as if he left a mark, invisible but heavy, pulling at something deep inside me. I steal another glance at Ethan through the cracked mirror across the room, the steam distorting his face into something unfamiliar yet piercingly intense. I'm searching for a crack in his composure, a flicker of doubt or regret, anything to tell me he's as unsettled as I am. But there's nothing. Just that same unreadable calm, his sharp green eyes holding mine in the reflection. And then there's that nod again, replaying in my mind like a loop, a slow, deliberate tilt of his head, a silent permission, a challenge that I can't ignore. It's as if he's saying, "Go on, Amelia, take the leap." But into what? My stomach twists, a knot of nerves and questions I don't have answers for. My mind drifts, pulling me back to a memory of one of our late-night talks, months ago, when the world outside our window was quiet and the only light came from the flickering candle on the coffee table. We were sprawled on the couch, a shared blanket draped over us, the air between us thick with the kind of intimacy that only comes after years together. Ethan's voice was low, almost hypnotic, as he mused about the freedom found in surrendering control, in testing the very limits of trust. "Imagine letting go completely," he'd said, his fingers tracing idle patterns on my arm. "Handing over the reins, just to see what happens. There's power in that vulnerability, don't you think?" I'd laughed it off then, chalking it up to his academic mind weaving theories in the dark. But now, standing here in this steamy haze, those words crash into me with a weight I didn't expect. They feel less like a thought experiment and more like a blueprint for this very moment. Anger flares up, hot and sudden, burning through the fog of my thoughts. How could he put me in this position without warning? How could he bring me here, to this strange, charged place, surrounded by these silent, watching men, and expect me to just... what? Play along? Trust him blindly? My hands clench into fists at my sides, the fabric of my coat still bunched in my grip. But beneath the anger, there's something else. A flicker of curiosity, dangerous and unbidden. What if I did let go? What if I stepped into whatever this is, just to see where it leads? The thought terrifies me. But it also pulls at me, like a current I can't resist. I take a deep breath, the humid air filling my lungs, and force myself to move. My steps are slow, deliberate, each one echoing in the cavernous space as I walk deeper into the room, away from the safety of the entrance. My coat feels like an anchor, a tether to the familiar. But I shrug it off, letting it slip from my shoulders and fall to the damp stone floor with a soft thud. It's more than just shedding a layer. It's a symbolic act, a quiet declaration that I'm stepping out of my comfort zone, even if every nerve in my body screams to turn back. The heat presses closer now, the steam curling around my bare arms, and I feel exposed in a way that goes beyond the physical. The men don't speak. Their silence is heavier than the air itself, their gazes fixed on me, unyielding, as I move closer to the central pool. I can sense their presence, like shadows at the edge of my vision. But they don't approach, not yet. The tension is a palpable force, a weight that presses against me as I stand by the shimmering pool, the steam rising in ghostly tendrils around my legs. The warmth of it kisses my skin, a stark contrast to the cold knot of uncertainty still twisting in my gut. I can feel the damp stone beneath my feet, slick and grounding, as I take another hesitant step forward, the heat seeping into my bones. The air is thick, almost liquid, carrying the faint murmur of low voices from the men around me, blending with the rhythmic drip of water echoing off the cavern walls. It's a soundscape that wraps around me, pulling me deeper into this strange, surreal moment where time itself seems to blur, stretching and folding in on itself. I don't look at them directly. Not yet. My eyes are drawn to the pool, its surface a mirror of rippling vapor reflecting the flickering torchlight in fractured golden shards. But I'm aware of their presence, the 5 of them, their silhouettes shifting subtly in the mist like specters. There's an unspoken agreement hanging in the air, a detachment that makes this feel less like reality and more like a fever dream. None of them ask my name, and I don't offer it. It's as if we've all stepped into a space where identities don't matter, where the usual rules of engagement are suspended. That anonymity, oddly, feels like a shield, a permission to let go in a way I never thought I could. The steam clings to me, warm and intimate, caressing my arms, my neck, as beads of moisture trace slow paths down my skin. I can feel my heartbeat slowing, sinking with the steady drip-drip of water somewhere in the distance. My gaze flickers to the cracked mirror across the room, catching Ethan's reflection once more. He's still there in the corner, a silent sentinel, his form distorted by the haze, but his presence undeniable. Those sharp green eyes of his hold mine through the glass, unwavering, watching but not interfering. It's a gaze that feels both protective and probing, as if he's studying every shift in my expression, every tremble of my resolve. And in that moment, I realize I'm not just here for myself. I'm here for him too, to show him I can trust, that I can follow where he leads, even if it's into the unknown. A wave of shame crashes over me, hot and suffocating, as I stand there, exposed in more ways than one. What am I doing? How did I let myself get pulled into this, surrounded by strangers in a place that feels like it exists outside the boundaries of my life? My hands tremble slightly, and I wrap my arms around myself, a futile attempt to shield against the weight of my own judgment. But then, as quickly as it came, that shame begins to ebb, replaced by something unexpected, a flicker of liberation, raw and unfiltered. It's as if, by stepping into this moment, by allowing myself to be here, I'm tapping into a part of me I've kept buried for years. A part that craves to break free from the neat, predictable lines I've drawn around my desires, my limits. I let my arms fall to my sides, my breath hitching as I surrender to the pull of the moment, The men move closer now, their forms emerging from the steam like shadows taking shape. Their presence is a quiet intensity, a dance of nearness and restraint. And though we don't speak, there's a shared understanding in the air, a current that flows between us. It's not about words or names. It's about sensation, about the unspoken. The warmth of the steam amplifies every touch, every brush of contact, turning it into something electric, something that hums beneath my skin. I'm lost in it, in the way the heat and the haze blur the edges of right and wrong, in the way time slips away until there's nothing but the now. There's a strange beauty in this, in letting myself be carried by the tide of it all. It's not just about the physical, though that's undeniable, a rush that leaves me breathless, but about the revelation unfolding within me. I'm discovering a strength I didn't know I had, a capacity to trust Ethan so much. As the intensity of the moment in the steam bath fades, I find myself standing in the lingering warmth, the air still thick with the scent of eucalyptus and the weight of what just transpired. The cavern is quiet now, an almost sacred stillness settling over the stone walls. The men who were here moments ago have vanished into the mist, their presence dissolving as if they were never real, leaving just Ethan and me in this hazy, warm space. I'm sitting on one of the smooth stone benches, wrapped in a soft linen robe that clings to my damp skin. My hair is wet, strands sticking to the back of my neck, and I feel a strange mix of exhaustion and vitality coursing through me, like I've been reborn in some unspoken way. My skin still hums with the echoes of sensation, a reminder of the boundaries I've just crossed, and my breath comes slower now, sinking with the faint drip of water somewhere in the distance. I hear Ethan's footsteps before I see him, deliberate and measured, echoing softly against the slick stone floor. He emerges from the steam, his own robe loosely tied, his dark hair tousled and damp, catching the faint torchlight. There's a quiet strength in the way he carries himself, a steadiness that anchors me even now. He sits beside me on the bench, close enough that I can feel the heat radiating from him, a contrast to the cooling air around us. For a moment, neither of us speaks, the silence between us heavy but not uncomfortable. It's the kind of quiet that holds everything, questions, revelations, and the unspoken understanding of what we've just been through together. Then he breaks the stillness, his voice low and steady, cutting through the haze like a lifeline. You've become stronger. Now you know yourself. There's no judgment in his tone, no trace of doubt or regret, just a quiet pride that catches me off guard. I turn to look at him, searching those sharp green eyes for something more, and I see it there. A deep, unwavering belief in me, in us. His words settle into me like a truth I hadn't realized I was seeking. He's right. I've discovered a part of myself I didn't know existed. A hidden strength that lay dormant until this moment. Until I was pushed to the very edge of what I thought I could handle. I've faced fears I didn't even know I had, and I've come out the other side not broken, but whole in a way I can't quite describe. Sitting there, shoulder to shoulder with him, I start to see our relationship through a new lens. What I initially felt as a betrayal, a shattering of trust when we first stepped into this cavern, and I saw those strangers waiting, wasn't that at all. It was a journey we took together, a test of the bond we've built over 12 years. I thought trust was something static, a line you don't cross, but now I understand it's something alive, something that grows when you dare to stretch it, to explore its limits. This experience, as unsettling as it was at first, didn't fracture us. It deepened what we have. It showed me that trust isn't just about safety, it's about vulnerability, about stepping into the unknown hand in hand, knowing the other will be there, no matter what. I reach for his hand, my fingers brushing against the familiar roughness of his palm. calloused from years of hiking and working with his hands on small projects around our home. It's a touch I've felt 1,000 times, but today it feels different, weighted with everything we've just endured. His grip tightens around mine, steady and sure, and I know in that moment that we've weathered something extraordinary together. The steam around us seems to thin, the torchlight flickering softer now, casting long shadows across the stone. I lean my head against his shoulder, feeling the rise and fall of his breath, and for the first time in hours, I let myself truly relax, the tension draining from my body like water slipping through my fingers. We don't stay long after that. As the first hints of dawn begin to seep into the world outside, we leave the steam bath behind, stepping out into the cool mountain air. The contrast is, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.